Winning cures everything. Now for your hosts, Gary and Chris.
Welcome in. It is Thursday, April the 9th. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And this is Winning Cures Everything. You can find us, of course, over at winningcureseverything.com. That is the website. It's got everything that you need to know about us over there. All of our picks, previews, podcasts, videos, social media platforms. You can find it all right there. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you are sharing the show out with your friends, if you would so kindly. And if you find the time, leave a nice review. Tell your buddies about it. Leave us some comments. You can jump in on the show. We are live, of course, right now. If you're watching this, you know what's up. We're on YouTube. We're on Periscope. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook, etc. The podcast will be up as soon as we are done with the live show. You can always subscribe to that. Google Podcast, Spotify, etc., etc. Matt jumps in already. He said, "Sup, Matt. Sup to everybody else that is flying in here. I can see lots and lots of people are watching, so that's definitely good." So on today's show, we've got Len Simon coming in. He is the attorney that is an advisor for the NCPA. We'll go through all of his stuff here in a minute, but wanted to start out today's show by discussing Chris Johnson, former NFL running back. He is accused of a murder-for-hire plot. Now, obviously, everybody has watched Tiger King at this point. We all know that Joe Exotic was accused of trying to have that bitch Carol Baskin killed, as he says. This is more like real life stuff, right? And I understand that was real life. That was documentary. I get it. But the story is former NFL running back Chris Johnson is accused of paying a suspected gang member for allegedly killing two men who shot him and killed his friend in 2015, according to court documents obtained by TMZ Sports. Johnson, 34, has not been charged with a crime, but prosecutors believe he paid a noted Florida gang member named Dominic Bolden to kill the suspected gunman in a March 2015 drive-by shooting in Orlando. Johnson, a three-time Pro Bowler who last played in 2017 for the Cardinals, was shot in the shoulder during the Orlando shooting, but made a full recovery. The driver of Johnson's Jeep, Drikius Orico Johnson, died after being shot in the head. Police at the time said Johnson was uncooperative, and investigators suspected the vehicle had been targeted. We can go through a whole bunch of other stuff here. Johnson tweeted earlier that it was false news. Basically, this whole thing is built on court documents that were, it was a statement by somebody that had a reason to try and take people down with him, right?
I guess, yeah. It's all I know is that all I read was that it was from an informant. From what little experience I have with law enforcement stuff, from being just a criminal justice major and doing like an internship, informants are really, really, really bad. They're hard to bring actual charges if there's no evidence outside of an informant's thing. They usually have great information. The problem is you can't trust them because they're only giving you information to get something in return. And while I think most of the stuff they say has a lot of potential to be true, it's really hard to bring in court. I mean, it just is. As a prosecutor, you can get a lot of evidence for a lot of things, but it's hard to get a judgment.
Yeah. I would imagine there's not a lot of evidence here. There's not a lot of anything else. It's one guy.
It sounds like Chris Johnson was involved in gang activity and very comfortable in a gang world. And the people who shot him and his friend, or I thought it was his family member, his cousin, but
yeah, I think so.
Sad that he was shot and that his friend or family member died. These people are now dead. I don't know, man. I'm a cynical person and I come across as an asshole a lot of times, but look, I'm not going to lose any sleep over if some gang members are dying. I'm just not.
I can understand that. I mean,
you're terrible people, and you're a drain on society.
It'll tell you exactly what you need to know when it said that Johnson was uncooperative with the investigation when he was a victim
Yeah.
You know,
he knew who these guys were if he thought he was targeted, and he probably wanted to take care of himself. You know what, though? There is a part of me that understands that, because the scary things that happen when you become a dad for the first time ever, you start thinking of what happens if somebody hurts my kids. And it's just one of those things where I think about, the situation where I'm okay burning the rest of my life. I am. I'm totally fine with cashing in and blowing it all on finding whoever hurt my child and making sure that they hurt and that they don't live anymore. And I don't want that to go into the police's hands. I don't want it to go into the justice hands. I want to take care of it. And then if that costs me the rest of my life, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
I think about that. And so it's really hard for me to say, I wouldn't want to be cooperative. I probably would be cooperative, but at the same time, there's that part inside the back of my head that says I fully understand wanting to handle this myself.
Yeah. No, you're dead on about that.
Doesn't make it right. Totally doesn't make it right. Completely illegal. Not okay to do. But
but you get it. Yeah.
I get it.
I'm sure there will be much more about this come out. It just happened today. Like the story just popped today.
But at some point in time, we got to get evidence.
We got to get
more than just this guy. We got to get corroboration. You got to get a whole lot more than what we got right now.
All it is right now is a court document from something that was said. So it is what it is. Next topic before we bring in Len, Rose Namajunas is out of UFC 249. So the co-headliner is already lost a fighter. Rose is out. 2 of her family members just died from COVID-19 complications, and she will not be fighting. There was no other reason given other than that, but I don't think you need another reason other than that.
That's all she needs.
Yeah. Joe Rogan he came on his podcast and discussed this. Dana White said that Joe was going to be at these fights. Joe has not confirmed that himself. He said he doesn't know where they are. He doesn't know what's going on. Nobody has given him any kind of information. So as far as he is concerned, as of right now, no, he's not calling the fights. But that could change. He still thinks that it's a little shady, and it's still just weird timing. It's weird to have a fight going on, and I understand wanting to do it, and obviously I want to watch the fights, but it's still weird, and having something like this happen to one of the fighters, you feel bad for him, and it just makes the whole thing seem even more trivial, right?
I get it. I mean, I completely get it. I get this person backing out, and then I also get, them wanting to try and do this.
Yeah, I get both sides of it. So I understand where it's questionable to have the fights. I also get where we do need some kind of normalcy back, in our lives. So
I think there's a safe way to do these things. I don't think that everybody in the world has to lock themselves in a bubble. I do think you need privilege. I think it takes a lot of money and a lot of power and influence to be able to, get different things to where you can have something like this. But if we can get that, then I don't understand why we can't have it, because it benefits everybody. It doesn't just benefit this one person going for a cash grab.
Yeah.
It benefits so many people. Everybody that's interested in this, it benefits, which is millions of people.
Oh, yeah. This will be a massive thing. Big payday for the fighters, an actual live sporting event that's going to be a lot of fun for a lot of fans. I think it's going to be good. I mean, I don't see any reason not to do it necessarily, other than the optics of it. And if optics are a problem, people don't have to watch. It is what it is. So let's go ahead and bring in Len. I'm gonna go ahead and call him and get him on the line, and I'll do the introduction here momentarily. But yeah, I confirmed with him earlier.
Hello.
Hey, Len, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Gary.
Wonderful. It's so good to have you back on. Let me do your introduction right quick. He's Len Simon. You can follow him on Twitter at LenSimon2. On the advisory board of the NCPA, that's the National College Players Association. He has repped Major League Baseball and the San Diego Padres. He's repped leading agents in the 2011-2012 NBA lockout, all this kind of stuff. And you need to go back and listen to last week's episode if you have not already done so. Mr. Simon, how's everything going in your world right now?
Oh, as good as can be expected in these crazy circumstances. We're doing fine.
It's you. Hey, we're about the same. We're about the same down here. We're still at home. We haven't left. We've gotten delivery for really since the last time that we spoke, and yeah, it's about to drive everybody insane, I think. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Chris is doing the same thing. We brought you in today.
Hello, Chris.
We didn't get to
How are you,
discuss. We didn't get to talk all of the things that we wanted to last week. One of the big topics was the Major League Baseball stuff that's going on and the fact that you own a minor league team. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. The first thing I want to talk to you about, there has been more news over the past week, and you're involved with the NCPA. I'm curious your thoughts on the idea of these different situations with the college football season that is coming up. Obviously, all of the other sports basically depend on having a college football season. Everybody wants to talk to athletic directors. Everybody wants to talk to school presidents, et cetera. We understand what the chain of command is. Obviously, the governors and the mayors and the CDC and everybody else are going to be ones that make the final call. But if you end up with a season with no fans and you end up with, a different kind of circumstance than a player would typically go to a school for, nobody is talking to the players about this. Would it be inconceivable for a player to ask to sit out or really just have a feeling of where they don't want to play this season? Is there any chance that this could be up to the players? I know that that's a weird, long question, and I don't really know how to ask it, but
I think it depends on if you're talking about individual players or groups of players. The players as a group really never act. You don't hear, that the Alabama football team has voted, not to practice on Wednesdays, or that they need something they don't have. You hear individual players sometimes gripe, not usually at Alabama, but maybe at lesser places. And I think you certainly may see individual players decline to play. There may be people, with medical conditions, or people whose parents are leaning on them not to take any risks, or people who are just, they're bench warmers. There's not that much upside to them playing one more season of football, or even two. And if you tell them that you're going to open up in the summer, you're going to have, summer workouts, and you're going to have games, and they're going to be well closer than 6 feet to a lot of large gentlemen between, July or August and Christmas, some of those people are going to bail. And I don't think they're going to be star players at, Ohio State and Michigan. I think they're going to be lesser football players that they're going to bail. But there is no way for the players as a group to speak. That's one of the reasons that, NCPA was formed, was to attempt to speak for players. But when our executive director, Mr. Yuma, says something, he'll admit it. He doesn't take a poll of all the players in the country. There's kind of no way to do it. So the players can't speak as a group. There's no union. There's no nothing.
That is such a shame. Chris, did you have any topic on that? Any statement?
My question is do you think if a player chose to sit out this year and they are a scholarship type player, can they get another year of eligibility if they choose to take some type of hardship to sit out for, I guess you would consider this a medical reason?
I think they would have another year of eligibility. The real question is whether they'd give them the scholarship the next year. My understanding is, you show up at, any place, big school, small school, show up at Kentucky to play basketball and play 1 or 2 or 3 seasons. And the next year you say, I decided to travel to Europe, enjoy myself, and I'll be back. Maybe I'll be able to speak some Italian. And when you come back, you're eligible as heck. But your scholarship may be long gone. So I think those are the two answers. Scholarship would depend on whether John Calipari really wanted him to play, and the eligibility would be completely in the control of the player. Now there are places, like the Ivy League has very tough rules on redshirting and things like that, and it's conceivable you could lose your eligibility at a few more academically inclined or picky places. But I think 9 schools out of 10 you'd be eligible. There is another trick to it, Gary and Chris, which is that if they've recruited other players, they may be over the number of scholarships they can give out. And there's talk that the NCAA is going to give them additional scholarships. In other words, you got a basketball team that's got 15 players, 15 scholarships, whatever. And, if you let people come back, we'll take a spring sport. It's better, baseball. You let people come back next year, now you got really 5 years of players. And you have freshmen who showed up who were promised scholarships. You probably have too many players. So in that situation, I think the NCAA is talking about giving them a waiver, letting them have a few extras. But if you took next year off and played the year after, you might be out of luck on that scholarship.
That's something that was brought up today. Wisconsin announced, and I don't think they'll be the only Power 5 school to do this. Wisconsin has 35 spring sport seniors, and while they have all been granted waivers from the NCAA, and Wisconsin, along with everybody else, has been granted the ability to add those players back to their roster to go over their scholarship limit, Wisconsin has said, nope, like your career is done here. If you want to play elsewhere, you can request a transfer through the NCAA and all that, but your career at Wisconsin is done. And a lot of that is they're already facing financial hardships, and they don't have the money, or so they say, to pay for those additional scholarships. And I'm curious how that's going to be across the board.
So I'm okay.
It's going to create all kinds. Go ahead.
I'd like to jump in on this before you start answering. You could follow up and answer on this. I get in that situation. I get for all these smaller sports where you don't have a lot of scholarships to go around anyway, not being able to pay their scholarships. But just telling them not to come back and not taking them back on the team is something I don't understand, basically taking away their year of eligibility. So when the NCAA originally said we were going to allow schools the ability to keep these guys another year of eligibility, my red flag went up, and I said, that's a very funny way of wording it. Okay. And my question to my friends that we're in a group chat with some other guys from Northwestern that talk about this stuff all the time, which is, I don't trust these schools to do the right thing. So while the NCAA said now the school has the right to say they can have another year of eligibility, the school has to grant them that year of eligibility, not the NCAA. And my question is can that kid now from Wisconsin go to Arizona if they want to play? Can they go somewhere else?
And that's just a plain vanilla transfer, and the transfer rules are a little bit up in the air. But yeah, he should be able to go someplace else. I think you're entitled to 4 years of varsity eligibility, plain and simple. Now there may be a few weird exceptions to that, but you're entitled to 4 years of eligibility, and you used 3 of them up at Wisconsin. I think you got one left. And there used to be rules about sitting out. That's not what I'm talking about. They seem to be getting phased out, or were almost disappearing when the coronavirus hit us and kind of interrupted the process. But he's got a year left. It's really all the money about the scholarships, I think, is what they're talking about. But it ripples all over the place, guys. I was talking to somebody yesterday at Duke who was pointing out to me that there were schools holding back on making offers of scholarships to high school juniors because they thought there was going to be a pileup of too many players on campus with scholarships in 2 years. Forget about this year. They're talking about the year past that. So they're already trying to sort of make room or keep enough room to keep every high-quality athlete they have on campus, no matter how this coronavirus thing plays out. And that may mean there's some high school juniors who would get a scholarship to play football at Wisconsin or basketball at Kentucky or, baseball at Podunk who aren't going to get a scholarship offer, at least very quickly, while the coach holds back his scholarships to wait and see how this thing plays out, what the NCAA does, what his college president tells him he's supposed to do, and then he wants the best ball players on the field, and he wants flexibility. So he's already got people he's got to take care of, and he's not taking on any more. So I thought that was interesting that it's rippled down to kids in the 11th grade already.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up affecting basically everybody. Let's go ahead. Let's talk Major League Baseball for a little bit. I am very curious your thoughts on the idea of Major League Baseball isolating in Arizona. they would basically build a bubble, and nobody would get to leave the city or the town or whatever it is. They have 10, 11, 12 different fields that they can use, and they can televise the season from all in one city. And they would do it by doing, 7-inning doubleheaders, et cetera. They're trying to get in as many games as possible. I know that you're familiar with Major League Baseball players and the way that Major League Baseball operates, et cetera. What are the odds of something like this actually happening? They came out and said that it's a detailed thing that they haven't put all of it together yet. But, Chris and I are both of the belief that something like this could work, but these guys would be away from their families, away from everybody for 4 to 5 months while they do a season. Now, Chris doesn't think that that's that big of a deal. I think some guys are going to, not want to go that route. I don't know that you have to have everybody in favor of it, but I'm curious your thoughts on whether or not that's even feasible.
Well, it's creative as hell. It's possible. I mean, I think you have a lot of challenges. One challenge is you don't really have quite enough fields. I don't think you got minor league fields and college fields. Maybe you're close. There is the issue of playing in an empty stadium, which is a whole issue by itself, which we could talk about. Football, whether you could play NFL or college football in a stadium with no people. But let's leave that aside for a minute, because baseball wants to start up sooner. And so you got to put 25 players on a team is 50. You got to have some umpires. You got to have some managers, coaches. You need people that the grounds crew. You got to have a couple hundred people near one another, coexisting with one another. You couldn't do it in California. Our governor has already said, no crowds until I think he said September. Maybe he said later than that.
Good gracious.
So I assume they want to get started before September if they want to have a baseball season. I haven't heard the Arizona governor say anything one way or the other. So could you do it? You need to account for the fact that some players might choose not to play because of the medical risks. And then, as you said, you may have players, who have like a wife and a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old at home, and your home is pretty far from Arizona, and they're going to find it a tremendous hardship, and the family is, to be away from home, isolated for 5 months. That's
or
like
sort
of getting shipped out to the Marines for 5 months.
Yeah, exactly. You would be basically deployed if you've got family members that are at risk for this virus, et cetera. Say somebody goes into the hospital and you need to leave, then do you end up being quarantined when you get back for 14 days? I mean, I have no idea how this would even work. But it is incredibly creative. And, they're talking about doing this next month. They're talking about starting it up in May.
And look, the players want to play. I'm San Diego. We got Fernando Tatis Jr. here, Manny Machado. They're going to say, let's go. Give me a bat. Get a pitcher on the mound I want to hit. And they're going to like the idea on day one. Now, whether they like the idea, after being locked up in Arizona for 90 days, that's maybe a separate question. But you have to look at the financial side of it too, guys, I think. Let's look at it this way. In ordinary course, they're paying these players a boatload of money. And they're getting it back from television revenues and from gate receipts. So now the proposal is, let's do something really creative. Let's go to Arizona, isolate all these players, and we're going to get some of the television money, certainly not all, and we're going to get no gate receipts, zero. And baseball is a game that relies on gate receipts. In the NFL, they always say that the TV money is so good that you could play it in empty stadiums. And they used to say this, just as a joke to make the point, the economic point. They weren't talking about the coronavirus. They were just making an economic point. You could play the whole NFL season with no fans, and the teams would still come out ahead. Baseball, I don't think that's true, because the TV contract is smaller, and they're selling a ton of seats, 162 games a year. Teams have 80 home games. They draw 30,000 people a game, 35,000. That's a lot of tickets sold, a lot of hot dogs, and a lot of beer. So what are they going to pay the players? That's going to be negotiable too, right? If you play 2/3 of the season with no fans, I don't think they're going to pay them full price.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it would. I think the idea behind this would have to be that, okay, we're going to start in May, but by, middle of July, maybe the 1st of August, we will get to go back to the home stadiums. That seems to be the only way financially that would work. Otherwise, I mean, at some point, you have to just completely renegotiate every contract because some of these guys make massive money.
Well, you could renegotiate the CBA, and that would take care of that. The way this works, if you look at it this way, the contracts would be valid, except the CBA says the whole CBA is off. The collective bargaining agreement is off if there's a national emergency, and we have a national emergency. So all the contracts really are dead. So they could negotiate them back in on whatever terms that the union would agree. What I'm saying is they don't have to talk to 600 players. They have to talk to the union and its representatives. And if the union and management agree, for example, that they'll play in Arizona and they'll pay every player half of his salary, and the union signs the contract, that's the deal. And you can play for half your salary, or you can go home. And the owners, similarly, there'll be some, hardline owners will say, I don't want to pay him anything. I don't want to play in empty stadiums. I don't like Arizona. They'll be stuck too. This is a kind of a majority rule situation. The owners make a deal through their commissioner, players make a deal through their union, and they play. So nobody's going to Arizona until Rob Manfred and Tony Clark get together with whatever assistants they bring along and come up with an idea of how much do you pay Mookie Betts, who's getting some, I don't know, what's he getting
like
this year? An awful lot of money.
Yeah,
$30 million a year. How much do you pay a $30 million a year player for a part of a season in Arizona? Maybe you pay him $15 million. If you pay him $15 million, maybe you can afford to run a season. But if you look at it backwards, if you want to see if this makes any sense, I suggest look at it backward a little bit. What if they had last year's World Series, which was a pretty exciting 7-game World Series, lots of drama, and they had it in a stadium with no people in it? Now, does that take the luster off the World Series? Would people watch? Would people get excited? And if they would, if you can have a World Series, you can have playoffs. And if you can have playoffs, I guess you can make your way through the regular season. We've had seasons in all the major sports where we missed a bunch of games. NBA lockout killed 2 months. They started playing on Christmas Day in 2011. The NFL had a 60-day strike in the early 80s, and baseball missed 50 games in 1981. So we've had all three major sports miss essentially just under 2 months of play and have a season and have a championship. And there's a few people who want to put asterisks on those championships, but most people accepted it. Now, they didn't play in empty stadiums, so that's the experiment. Can you play 2/3 of a season and call it a season? I think the answer is yes, from history. Can you play 2/3 of a season in empty stadiums all in one state? We've never tried that experiment before, gentlemen.
You got that right. Chris, you want to hop in here?
No, I mean, I just think that we're about to try a lot of things that we've never done before with this thing. We have technology that we've never had in the past during pandemics in the past, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we have a lot of things at our disposal today that we didn't have years and years and years ago. And I've always poo-pooed the idea that players aren't going to want to go. Well, they might not want to go, but if they want to collect a paycheck, they'll go. And I'm the guy that y'all brought it up, that I'm not, singing these sad songs for these guys because they got to be away from their families for 4 months, because everybody in the military has done that their entire life, their entire careers. Okay. So if you can't do it one time because of some weird thing and get paid an absorbent amount of money, you're still going to make more than the average person's ever going to make in their life. Then, I don't know what river you want me to cry in, but I'm not going to do that. I just want baseball back.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. All right, we've already gone 30 minutes on the show. Let me go on and jump into this topic. You co-own a minor league baseball team. It is the Lake Elsinore Storm, It's a Padres minor league affiliate in Southern California. Tell me about this. I don't understand how minor league teams work. I just want to know the basics of this. We have one here in Memphis that, I've never understood the financials. I don't understand how the affiliation helps or what it does exactly. Can you kind of give me just a general,
let me explain it to you, and then you can ask me some questions. So first of all, we have two kinds of minor leagues. We have affiliated and unaffiliated.
Okay.
But just so you know, in case you have some listeners sitting somewhere where they have a local team that's what's called independent or unaffiliated, that's a whole different business, and we don't have time for that today. We could do it next week or next month. The affiliated minor leagues are all teams that are farm teams of a major league team. By and large, there are 7 levels of minor leagues from rookie ball up to AAA, and there are 30 major league teams, so there's about 210 minor league teams. I'm cutting some corners and making some estimates here, okay? But that's pretty close.
Gotcha.
So the Memphis has what, the Redbirds?
Redbirds, yeah. It's the AAA
Redbirds,
for the St. Louis Cardinals. Yep.
For the Cardinals. So the Cardinals have 7 minor league teams. It's a place where they can stat players who aren't good enough to play for them yet, and that's where high school kids that they sign after the draft or college kids that they sign after the draft get put someplace in that minor league system.
If
they play better, they get promoted. They play worse, they get sent home. Once in a while, they get traded around to somebody else's minor league team.
Okay.
The owners of the teams have a business relationship with the major league team. So we have a contract with the Padres, and the Redbirds have a contract with the Cardinals. But we don't have to negotiate the contract because it's a standard form contract, really negotiated between MLB and the whole world of minor league baseball, which has its own organization called the National Association of Minor League Baseball Teams. So it's a standard form contract. So if the Redbirds get tired of working with the Cardinals and they want to become a Dodgers affiliate, and the Dodgers want them, they have exactly the same deal they have with the Cardinals. And the deal is this: we'll give you players, we'll give you a manager, a third base coach, a pitching coach, and a trainer. And we, the major league team, will pay their salaries. And you will provide them a field, stadium. You'll bus them from place to place, and you will generally provide us a place for our players to improve or fail or get sent home. And we will control all the players. You'll control everything else. So, if our shortstop in Lake Elsinore stinks, we can't fire him. We can't send him down. The Padres have complete control over them. But we have control over the stadium, the hot dogs, the beer, and everything else. I once was talking to a guy named Larry Lucchino. You might know the name. He ran the Orioles and later the Padres and later the Red Sox. He's a very smart business executive. And he said, when I was just getting into this, he said, Len, it's kind of like Spielberg makes the movie. And what you do is you decide where the movie theater should be and how much rent you're willing to pay, how nice you want to make it, and what kind of food you want to sell and how much you want to charge for the food. And that's what you control. But Spielberg makes the movie. And that's kind of what we do. We provide a place for them to play ball, and we attempt to sell enough tickets, enough hot dogs, and enough beer to make some money or at least break even.
Okay, so the money side of it more so has to do with the facility itself and the concessions, et cetera. And you have to make sure that there are butts in the seats to make sure that you're making money off of that, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I should say that most minor league teams are closer to break even than they are to making or losing a lot of money. But also, most minor league teams go up in value over the years. So, if you looked at my 18 years as a baseball owner, I probably, I make a few bucks one year, I lose a few bucks the next year. But after 18 years, the franchise is probably worth 4 times what it was worth when I bought it. And that is almost exactly what people said about Major League Baseball 20 years ago. Almost word for word. Major League Baseball teams, other than like the Yankees and the Dodgers, didn't make money. But even if you had a crummy team, the value of the franchise would go from $25 million to $50 million to $75 million to $100 million. And you see this in a lot of sports. The price of the Clippers went way up
Oh yeah.
Back when they were terrible. And there's some magic about people owning sports teams. They're willing to pay and they're willing to bid against each other. So if you're trying to scratch your head and figure out why anybody would do this, I think the answer is that usually either they love the sport, which almost all of them do, or they're okay with putting up with mediocre financial results year to year because they know that when they sell, they'll make some decent appreciation.
Well, that's okay. So this isn't necessarily baseball, but it kind of is it's in the ownership realm. Chris and I have talked about this for years about the San Diego Chargers leaving San Diego and going to Los Angeles to be second fiddle to the Rams. Now they're going into a stadium where they have to pay, and they've got some kind of a sweetheart deal and whatnot. But I am curious, if you are in a city like San Diego where you feel you are the team, right? Why would you go to L.A. to be second fiddle to somebody else? And we talked about how the team's valuation in L.A. is worth so much more than San Diego. What does that entail? How do they become more valuable just because they're in Los Angeles?
It's a sad story, for those of us in San Diego. I used to be a Chargers fan, and now I root for whoever's playing the Chargers that week. So
I can believe it.
It's a very sad story. I was even on the mayor's task force. San Diego set up a mayor's task force to try to find a way to keep the Chargers in town. So as you can see, we didn't do so good.
We are not big Spanos fans. We have talked a lot of hatred.
No, they're not the nicest people in the world. But the answer to your question is because it's a bigger market, it's believed that people will pay more for luxury boxes, for season tickets, for advertising, promotion, sponsorship, and everything else. That's basically it. And it turns out to be mostly true. Now the Chargers are, having two teams in city is a strange situation. If you move from Podunk to a place that doesn't have a team. When the Cardinals moved to Phoenix might have been a better market than where they came from, which I believe was St. Louis. And maybe that makes some sense because it's a bigger market, and all those things are true. But they didn't have to share the market with anybody else. So I think what you have is two things going on. Los Angeles is a place where you can make a lot more money, but you have to share. So the Spanos family had to make a decision whether sharing it was going to take away all the benefits of being in the bigger market. But think about the Yankees. Everything is so pricey there in terms of their relationship with their fans and their sponsors and their advertisers, that there's obviously more money to be made.
True.
The Cowboys, mint money, and you'd say, well, that's a big name team, but I would say Green Bay is a big name team, but you can't mint money in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
100% true. 100% true. Now, back to minor league baseball. You said that the Cardinals have like 7 affiliates. Is that common across the board? That seems like so many.
Well, they have AAA, AA, then there's High A, which is where we are, and Low A. And those are the four that you might recognize where most of the best ball players are. But there is also something called short season, which is a place where they stick the players the year they sign coming out of high school and college. Because by the time they get done with their high school and college seasons, it's May, and everybody's already up and rolling. So they want to put them someplace where the competition is a little slower and easier, and the coaches are a little more patient, and get them attuned to playing professional baseball instead of college baseball. And then there's rookie league, and there's a bunch of things they have near their spring training facilities that are for the youngest guys and for the Caribbean guys, because the Americans can't come in until they're 18. They can't sign a contract. But the Caribbean guys can sign when they're 16. So we have 16-year-olds with tremendous, I don't mean we, the Padres have 16-year-olds with tremendous baseball skills for a 16-year-old who can't speak a word of English, never been in the United States, and they've got a lot to learn. And so they take them to Arizona, where the spring training facility is, and they have a rookie league and rookie orientation. So if you add those up, you get up to about 6 or 7, and that's where we're at. Although I should say that there's an effort being made by Major League Baseball to reduce the number of levels. You may have seen it in the paper about 6 months ago.
Yeah, we sure
It's
did.
been overcome by the coronavirus, but some people in minor league baseball who are fearful of this think that the coronavirus will be the best excuse the major leagues can have for knocking off some of those levels. But Major League Baseball thinks there's probably one or two too many levels. The Kevin Towers, dear deceased wonderful man who used to be the general manager of the Padres, would always say, "Can you please get rid of AA or AAA? Because I don't need them both. You know, I'd be just fine with one of those and the rest of what you have." Most of his peers now around are saying, well, "Get rid of the rookie league and that other junk down at the bottom. I don't need that." But either way, what they're talking about is at 5 levels or 6 levels would be plenty.
That is a lot of play. Do you have any idea how many players a Major League Baseball team is actually paying at one time? Just curious.
Well, they pay the minor leaguers very little, but yeah, I mean, that should be. If you have 7 teams, you know, in the middle of the season, if you have 7 teams with 25 players on a team and a few guys on injured reserve, what's that? 7 times 30 is
That's
210.
Yeah,
Does that sound right?
Yeah. Good.
Well, plus the major. I missed the major leaguers. It's 8 levels if you count MLB. So yeah, 250. But you know, they don't pay the minor leaguers much at all, and that's a big controversy. There was a lawsuit claiming that they weren't being paid minimum wage because you have to pay employees for travel time. So you got to actually pay them for every hour they spend on a bus.
Yeah, I could see that. So college football analyst Joel Klatt he always talks about his minor league experiences, and he said we were traveling all the time. It was play a game, you know, play 2 games, travel to wherever you're going next, play 2 more games, 3 more, whatever it is, and there was no breaks, no downtime. He said more guys were on drugs, more guys had alcohol problems, etc. Because once the game was over, you had to find a way to decompress because there was no break, there was no time off.
Well, and actually, one of the complaints that Major League Baseball is making about why they want to cut down the minor leagues is they say that the bus rides are too long, and there are leagues like the Texas League, I think, in which the teams are pretty far apart, and so you do spend like 9 hours on a bus. And there's other leagues where it's more populated area, and the teams tend to be 2 hours apart. So that's one of the grievances for Major League Baseball: get rid of the longer bus rides. And then their other grievance is specific grievances, other than there's just too damn many teams. The other specific grievance is some of the facilities are pretty old and beat up.
Oh yeah.
So they're pushing pretty hard to try to get rid of the old and beat up stadiums. Fortunately, ours is only about 18 or 20 years old. So we don't have I don't think we have any problems in those regards. And our league isn't too crazy in terms of travel. So
how many people does your stadium hold?
We hold about 6,000.
6,000. That is significant. Yeah. The one in Memphis Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, it only holds like 4,500, right?
Yeah, I don't think AutoZone Stadium's very big.
Yeah, AutoZone Park is not huge. They have also started a USL franchise. But
it's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Like when it was built, now that's several years ago. When it was built as one of the nicer minor league stadiums in the country.
Yeah, it is. It's insane.
Yeah, I would say 4,500 is small for AAA.
Yeah.
But if it's nice is nice. Brings in the fans, and we don't fill our place that many times. So 6,000 is okay, but we don't need every last seat.
I think that seats, though, we also have like the entire left field is nothing but a big bluff, a big grassy knoll area. I don't know how they equate the amount of seats that is, or if they equate any. So it could be that it's got 4,500 seats.
And it's actually got like 6,000
bluff, which might hold 1,000 people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tim McCarver Stadium is the stadium that we used to have, and that was for the AA Memphis Chicks way back when. And Chris, do you remember what affiliation that was?
The Royals.
The Royals.
Watch Bo Jackson play baseball there?
Absolutely. I remember I went to a game against the Birmingham Barons and got to see Michael Jordan play way back when. But yeah, it was the whole stadium was basically wooden. I mean, it was wooden seats.
Yeah,
It was.
That's an old stadium.
Yeah. Oh, it was trash.
That's an old stadium.
it was crazy.
Now, do people in the Memphis area root for the Cardinals, or they root for somebody else?
This has been a Cardinals town for even longer than we had the Royals affiliation.
Okay, all right. We're 5 hours from Atlanta. I'm going to tell you that Atlanta,
when the Braves were really good,
6 hours from Atlanta, 5 hours from St. Louis, there's a pretty big Braves following here as well. Those are probably the two local teams. And then you've got a lot of Cubs fans because for a long time, the only TV baseball we ever got was Braves on Turner.
TBS.
And
Yep.
then WGN.
Superstation, Ted Turner, yeah.
Yep, WGN.
Yep. And then you've got the Chicago teams, and nobody wanted to be a White Sox fan, so everybody liked the Cubs. So those are probably the three. I don't know that I would say the Cardinals have more fans than the Braves around here.
I might beg to differ, but we can argue.
Unfortunately, in Lake Elsinore, we're almost equidistant between the Dodgers, the Angels, and the Padres. So the folks who live in the community, some of them would rather see the young Dodgers making their way up, and others would rather see the young Angels. But we probably have more than our share of Padre fans right now. But it isn't like having the Yankees have a minor league team in Staten Island or someplace like that, where everybody around is a Yankee fan, and you do get a lot of interest from the real baseball fans to come out and see the young guys, and then they can go out, go to the bar and tell their friend, "Hey, I saw the new third baseman. He's a good kid from Puerto Rico. He'll be playing third base in a year or two in the big stadium." Everybody likes to be sort of ahead of everybody else in the information market. So it helps if you have that crossover.
That's it. It blows my mind. You're saying that they have 250 guys on the payroll, even if they're underpaying a lot of them. It makes me think about trade deadlines and all that. Like, why would you ever worry about trading if you've got that many guys to pick from? It's bananas to me. So
there's a guy. I mean, I don't know what they do in the computer age really, but there used to be, and I think there still is, a guy with a huge whiteboard, and he's got the whole thing laid out there on his wall. So because people get hurt.
Oh yeah.
So if our shortstop gets hurt, we have a choice. We can put the Padres have a choice. They can put the backup shortstop out there, but he might. And say a guy gets hurt badly, he's going to miss 2 months. They can put the backup shortstop out there, but he may not be a guy that they think is long for this world anyway. That he's just they're phasing him out, so they may promote the shortstop from one level lower, who they think is a real up and comer. But now they have no shortstop at low A. So they have to find a guy to move him there. So it's like a big, it's a big superstructure of players at each position. And if you watch Major League Baseball closely, you'll see that there are pitchers, relief pitchers especially. They're in the majors for a week, and they're in AAA for a week, and they're back in the majors for a week and back in AAA for a week. And it has to do with, saving the arms of your relief pitchers and other guys getting hurt, and whether the team that's coming to town has a lot of lefties or a lot of righties, but they're kind of bouncing back and forth. But somewhere in Padre land and Cardinals land, there's a pitching coordinator, and he knows who every pitcher is in the system, from the ace of the staff down to the lowest level minor leaguer, and he knows that if somebody disappears, this is who you replace them with. If somebody gets traded, this is who you replace them with. And, there's one guy for infielders, one for outfielders, one for pitchers, one for catchers. Then you've got that. You can sort of master that whole circus.
That is bananas. That is so crazy to me. That is one of the big selling points for the Redbirds here in town, since they are the AAA affiliate. When the Cardinals need to rehab somebody or whatever, they send them down to Memphis for a week or two, and then they go right back up to the major leagues. But while they're down here, I remember David Freese was here for, I think, 2 weeks the year after the Cardinals won the World Series, and Freese was the MVP of the World Series. And, I went out to dinner with him, myself and my buddy Zach, and everywhere he went, everybody in town knew who he was, and it was incredible to see. But as soon as he left, it went back down to, you had 1,500, 2,000 people at the ballpark. But every game that he was there, regardless of whether he played or not, they sold out every night. And that always tends to help. But having a guy that knows every single detail of one position seems so insane to me, because we're mostly football guys. In the NFL, you don't really have to worry about that much detail. But in Major League Baseball, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, but by the way, when Freese was up there, the other major leaguers come up. It's a little added bonus for the players in the minor leagues. Usually, they often take the players all out for steak dinners when they're down there, and which they don't get on a regular basis. And Trevor Hoffman was on a rehab assignment to our place several years way back, middle of his career, and he didn't like the television they had in the clubhouse, so he bought him a brand new widescreen TV.
Yeah, but I'm betting he was pretty popular there for a while.
So having the guys with the big contracts come through from time to time is, it works. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero was down there. He was on rehab for the Angels, but we were playing the Angels affiliate. And Guerrero asked for a meeting with all the Hispanic players on both teams, and he took them out in the outfield, and he had a little chat with them about playing baseball in the United States. I thought it was pretty nice.
That's pretty cool. I love guys that do more than what they are supposed to do.
My top 5 favorite player.
Oh yeah.
So
I remember Chris talking about him. All right, we have gone over 50 minutes. Mr. Simon, thank you so much again for joining us. We will be having you back on again. I'm sure that there will be even more news that breaks that we are going to want your detailed opinions on. Everybody go follow him on Twitter at Len Simon 2. He is a fantastic follow. Make sure that you go and subscribe, follow, whatever you want to call it. Mr. Simon, thank you so much. We will definitely be having you back on.
Thanks very much. Go online and check out our great hats and our great logo in Lake Elsinore. We sell a ton of them.
Hey, you know what? We'll Chris and I'll go ahead and tweet that out here in just a little bit.
It's the eyes of the storm. They're very popular. Talk to you later.
I can get down with that. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Yep. Bye.
Yes. Mr. Simon is such a fantastic listen, man. He's got so much knowledge. So much knowledge. Chris, anything you want to hit on before we head out?
No, that's it.
That is it. What a great listen. Good gracious. All right, everybody knows the deal. WinningCuresEverything.com is the website. Go and check it out. Picks, previews, podcasts, videos, social media platforms. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Make sure you follow us over there. Watch the show on Twitch. Watch the show on YouTube, etc. Make sure you are subscribed, and you can always subscribe to the podcast, whichever of your favorite podcast apps you want to listen to. We are on it, I guarantee you. Make sure you leave a nice review. Jump in on the comments. Leave some comments for us. We would definitely appreciate it. Chris, this has been a lot of fun. Tomorrow will just be you and myself. No guests. We are going to have an absolute ball. Hopefully everybody will join us. We will see you all tomorrow. Thanks for checking out Winning Cures Everything. If you want to keep up with us, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Visit the website at winningcureseverything.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us at Winning Cures, at Gary WCE, or at Chris B. Giannini on Twitter. Share out the show, leave a nice review, and make sure to comment and tweet at us.